Welcome back to Rising. Lindsey, what's on your lens today?
Let's get right to it. So immigration is one of those topics that always gets reduced down to sound bites and slogans. But here's the reality. It's not just a political debate. It's a workforce crisis that's threatening the very foundation of America's economy. Now, if you eat food in this country, this issue touches you. So in Pennsylvania, yes, the swing state that President Trump won with 50% of the vote in 2024, farmers are desperate for workers. They're literally watching their livelihoods collapse because they can't find enough workers to milk cows or pick crops or keep farms alive, according to a Politico article. One farmer, John Painter, told the website, quote, "The whole thing is screwed up. We need people to do the jobs Americans are too spoiled to do." It's not coming from a progressive activist. That's coming from a lifelong Republican farmer who voted for Trump 3 times. And that's the irony here. The very communities that backed Trump the hardest are now being squeezed the hardest by his immigration crackdown. Deportations and red tape are slashing the supply of farm workers. Economists say the U.S. lost 155,000 agricultural jobs in just a few months last year. And that's before Trump, or earlier this year, and that's before Trump's latest promises to deport millions more. The Economic Policy Institute estimates that if he follows through, we'll lose not only millions of immigrant workers, but also millions of jobs for U.S.-born workers whose roles are tied to immigrant labor. In other words, less immigrant labor doesn't just hurt immigrants, it shrinks opportunity for everybody. And people are noticing the human side of this too. Earlier this summer, Joe Rogan summed up what a lot of Americans are feeling. Let's take a look at that.
It was a visceral reaction that a lot of people had to the idea of people just showing up and pulling people out of schools and pulling people out of Home Depot and pulling people that were just hardworking people that maybe snuck over here because they didn't have a legal way to get over here. But since they've been here, they've been good people and they're a part of communities. And that's what freaks people out, because when people thought about ICE, they thought, great, we're going to get rid of the gang members. They didn't think, great, you're going to get rid of a landscaper.
Now that disconnect between the political promise and the practical impact is tearing holes in our economy and in our communities. Farmers are being forced to sell off livestock, close operations, or just watch crops rot in the fields. Restaurants are shortening hours, construction sites are slowing down. It's like a domino effect of a labor shortage that we are now creating ourselves.
Yeah, and I don't like that at all.
I saw 2 articles in the last 2 days. Aside from this Politico article that really talked about these specific rural Pennsylvania farmers that are losing so many workers and money because of fear and all the different things happening with immigration. Also, I saw that John Deere is cutting a lot of its what's going on with its services because of immigration, but also because of the tariffs. So there's multiple policies that President Trump is implementing that are hurting the average American that have 2 issues. One is that he said immediately he would fix the economy in multiple ways. And that truly hasn't been foreseen by many Americans that still, in a lot of recent studies, say that they feel financially strained. But on the second hand, it's like migrant labor, people don't understand, is a lot of times directly tied to U.S. jobs. So restaurant might cut their hours if they don't have the amount of people washing the dishes in order to keep the thing running. And if their migrants get forced out of places like Chicago and they're on the farms, or places in Pennsylvania, if they're losing labor in jobs that the Republican farmer said he can't really hire Americans to do because they won't take the position, then what do you want people to do? This is an actual account of people losing their livelihood or starting to lose money because of policies that are put in place by these stringent immigration policies that nobody asked for. Even Joe Rogan, who largely was credited amongst other people like Charlie Kirk of getting Trump in office, is saying this is not what anybody was asking for. The humanity side, or realistically, the fact that we're losing jobs now, is not what people were thinking, that you would take the landscaper, you would take a criminal like you promised on the campaign trail.
So I agree with you because I'm a capitalist and I want the jobs to go to
not the humanitarian part. Just the capitalist
No, the capitalist part. I want things to cost less. I want businesses to thrive. I want us to grow food. I want us to build buildings. I want us to be excellent in every way, and that requires a steady flow of labor. So if somebody shows up and they want to do the job, and they do the job well, and they agree to work for what the employer's paying, I don't ask any questions beyond that because I'm not a busybody. I'm not a leftist. I don't care about the conditions or the minimum pay or any of that. You want to work, you want to pay, great, none of my business. As the government, I'm butting out. That's my ruthless capitalistic point of view. many on the left don't feel that way. They want the government to come in and say what the conditions should be like and how much the person should be paid and what circumstances they can work.
Find long-term solutions to get people paying taxes
Yes, okay. Taxes, fine, whatever, I guess. And then but in this MAGA, the MAGA view on immigration is that, well, no, Americans should do those jobs. And then I say, well, it costs more to have you can have Americans do the jobs, but they don't work as much and they won't work for as little. And they say that's a good thing. And I disagree because it makes things more expensive. But it just matters what your priorities are. The priorities of many in MAGA, in the immigration restrictionist movement, is to provide more good jobs, higher paying jobs for Americans, for American workers. That's their priority. And so they want the immigrant labor gone. And they'll say to the farmers, they'll say to the factory owners, they'll say to the restaurant owners, the business owners, they'll say, well, then you gotta just shell out more money for American labor. And those people will say, we can't afford to do that without massively jacking up prices or scaling back, which I think is a bad thing because that's what I'm concerned about, but MAGA says so be it.
But as the leader, that's why I'm always like, who's in charge, right? If President Trump is where the buck stops and he's this businessman that could easily break away from the party when it comes to instances like Mamdani because his business and his homes are in New York, why can't he tell the party what the direction is in regards to this? Like, he's hurting a lot of massive businesses with some of these things that he's doing. Even if we look at what happened in Georgia with the plant where we, removed all the workers, and then Hyundai is having these major issues because these workers were building we're putting millions of dollars in that part of the country in order to bolster, an investment they're making in our country, but we've hindered them from doing the job so that we can hire people because of these stringent immigration laws. So like they're going against exact policies that he promised on the economy in other ways. So truly the economy was the number one thing. And if he truly is a businessman, because I feel like he probably aligns with you in that stance of personal, anyway, the way he's moved about business over the last 2 decades, then I can't understand why he's just letting everyone run amok.
I want a businessman president, but a businessman president should recognize that if we're building a factory that relies on technology from South Korea, we're going to need freaking South Koreans to build it, and they're the best qualified people to do it, and we can't make it more expensive for the factory to be built, or it's not going to get built here, and we won't build anything in this country, and it makes me so mad. It makes me furious.
You should just break away from the movement. I see him slowly am I pulling you?
Democrats won't allow the plant to be built because it has to be built on top of the ancestral lands of the Ojibwa people, where there is the rare blue crane is frolicking in the waters somewhere in a 100-mile radius, so we can't have a negative impact on the environment.
So if the bottom
there
line,
is no pro-growth party, unfortunately. It's the Libertarian Party.
But if the bottom line is that the goal would be to bring prosperity to the United States, and just, in that process, if migrants could be treated properly, can we just, sort that out? But also it's going to bring your businesses, for all these capitalists, so much money if we could sort that out. Why is that a problem? Like, it seems like a great time to work together with the administration to figure out what a real long-term solution is to immigration, because people agree about the criminals getting out.
Make everything more expensive by diminishing the supply of labor and land and everything else. It's very sad.
So what shall we do, Robbie?
Become libertarians. Become anarchists.
Next on Rising, Trump is suing the New York Times. More on that coming up next. Stay with us.